Oh, I don't care what you say. That's always pretty fun. That is always very fun.
The enemy has armed them.
What's going on, guys? Talon back here today, and based off of the Twitter poll that you guys voted on that I left on my Twitter for I think about 5 days or so when the beta originally started, some of you wanted me to do some thoughts and share my opinions and some tips and stuff. I know some of you are like, Battlefield, who cares? I don't want to deal with it. Well, then I guess this video is not really for you, but I mean, there's 5,000 of you, so I kind of assume some of you are going to watch this, and I'll admit right now off the bat, Battlefield 1 is not my favorite of all the Battlefield games, but you know, I don't know, hopefully they can fix some stuff and maybe it can be decent, but in terms of what I saw in the beta, and actually I was in the alpha, yeah, some things really need to change. It just wasn't doing it for me, so I know, but you know, there are moments though when you play Battlefield and if you're with a group of friends who really love the game as well and you get together in a squad and you're communicating and everything, it is great. So I'm just going to go into the Rush game mode because I love Rush, played it since Bad Company 2. Just going to go into some kind of background, some details, how you play the game mode, how it's evolved over the last few games, and just my overall thoughts of now seeing it. So, and if any of you know, I actually play a ton of Battlefield, played the heck out of Bad Company 2 with my best friend back home during college. That was always fun. Playing Rush, the destruction, everything was great. Battlefield 3 also, I then jumped into that. Battlefield 4 I still play. And then I got into the alpha and the beta for both Battlefield 1. Now, Bad Company 2 and Battlefield 3 for the most part were on PlayStation 3, and then I moved over to the PC for the end of Battlefield 3 into Battlefield 4. So, yeah. And for you wondering, did I play Hardline? Yes, I did, but yeah, you can't really find servers anymore. So, sorry, can't really do it. But for any of you who do not know what Rush is, if maybe you only really know Battlefield for its conquest mode, essentially, the basic gist of it is that you have attackers and defenders. Attackers get about 75 tickets, and tickets are basically a life for every time you die, minus one ticket, essentially, for each area, each section of the map, okay? And your objective is to push up on the area and you arm what's called an MCOM, or kind of like a bomb almost, essentially, okay? Defense, pretty standard. You got to hold them back and deplete all 75 tickets, and then the match is yours, essentially. Now, if the attackers are successful and they get, without losing all their tickets, and they destroyed 2 MCOMs. Each section has 2 MCOMs. You destroy A and B, then the attackers' tickets will go back up to 75, and then they get to attack the next section. If you get all the way to the end, match over completely, attackers win, essentially, okay? Pretty basic stuff, you know. You still have all the classes and everything. You can flank, you can get vehicles, you can do all this stuff. So, pretty standard mode. Even if you've never played the game, that is Rush in a nutshell, okay? So you've probably already pictured some like linear type of gameplay and everything, which for the most part, Rush is definitely more linear. It's not as wide open as, say, Conquest or something like that, but it is still pretty fun to play. There are some wider maps that have been shown in like Bad Company 2 and such, where you definitely have more flanking routes compared to others, Rush maps and everything. And overall, I'd say Bad Company 2 is definitely the highlight of it, and I hope they can eventually get back to that, but I'm not really sure. So if you didn't know, Bad Company 2 introduced Rush. Okay, this was the golden age of Rush, essentially, okay? All of the maps were tailored towards it, the destruction of the buildings and everything, just to change the layout of the map and everything. You could destroy the MCOMs by shooting rockets at it, crushing it with buildings. That was really fun. I know some people didn't really like that, but it did add kind of a strategy to it, although by the time Bad Company 2 was coming to the end of its life, or its main life before Battlefield 3 was coming out, that's pretty much all people did. They just kind of sat in the back, took rockets, and boom, there you go. That's all you had to do. But definitely at the beginning and in the middle, I'd say it was very fun. So, and like I said before, the maps were designed around it, which is really good. And I think, honestly, mostly Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3 a little bit, they weren't really designed. You kind of just took a conquest map, threw some random boundaries in, and said, okay, here we go, boom, you're done. So that was never really fun. And the nice thing that I really really liked about Bad Company 2 was that if you had a map, say for Conquest, okay, you know, you've got this section of the map is for Conquest. For Rush, they added on this extra part, or if you're in Conquest and you looked out into the distance and you could not access that area because it was out of bounds, they used that area for Rush. So this would be your Conquest map, and then Rush would just be like way up here somewhere, down here, you know, all this kind of stuff. It's really, really cool. And I loved how they did that. It kind of just made the world feel more alive and kind of bigger and everything. And there were some maps, especially in Bad Company 2, that just, they were huge with Rush. It was long and, you know, wide open, going over water, up mountains, and it was ridiculous. It was really cool. So, and for the most part, you had pretty good balance between classes and vehicles and everything. And, you know, obviously it was not perfect, and there's definitely a little bit of nostalgia there. But overall, I think most people can agree Bad Company 2 was the golden age for Rush. Okay? Not to mention, I'm going to say it again, the awesome destruction. Seriously, Dice, I know Battlefield 1, you've definitely harkened back to that, but we needed it a lot sooner. So, anyway, Battlefield 3 then had some decent maps, but they changed some things with the MCOMs. You could not crush, you know, or bring buildings down, because you can't really bring much buildings down in Battlefield 3. But you couldn't really bring down the buildings on top of the MCOMs to destroy them. You couldn't destroy them with C4 or anything like that, which I guess people were kind of divided on. Some people liked it, some people didn't, I guess. Now, you didn't really have maps that expanded out. Like I was talking about before, you had Conquest, and then you had the Rush that kind of just went all out. The only map in Battlefield 3 that I really knew of was Damavon Peak, I believe. Other than that, you basically had the Conquest version of the map, and you just put some boundaries in. Now, Battlefield 3 did have some decent ones, so that was all right. Had decent balance, and except for, and then also, I think Rush was still, you know, kind of in the prime then, because when they brought the beta out for Battlefield 3, they gave us Rush. That's all we could play, especially on consoles, until PC eventually got Caspian Border, so that wasn't too bad at all. But then once we got in the Battlefield 4, there's like, okay, whatever, all game modes, all maps, you know, and you're just like, oh, guys, don't do this. Come on, we don't want to do this. So, thankfully the CTE went in and they changed a bunch of stuff, like MCOM placements, cover, and all that kind of stuff. But the server rules is what really killed it, especially on PC. 64 players. You cannot play Rush with 64 players and have fun. I think between 16 on each side, some maps 12v12, so 24 in total, but I think 32 is a sweet spot. In between there, I think was really fun. So now we're into Battlefield 1. How does it stack up? Well, let's take a look, okay? So they've limited it to 24 players, even on PC, okay? The problem with the map that they gave us is that it's a desert, and you definitely have those much wider open areas with nothing but dunes, and yes, you've got some mountains kind of in the back, especially on defense, but that's just sniper paradise, and none of the other classes can really do much against that. I really think they need to take the medic class and just, you know, up a lot of the DMR style type of weapons to, be able to just counter snipers just a little bit. I'm not talking like, you know, extreme long distances or anything like that, but just, you know, being able to counter that just a little bit, I think, okay? Now, obviously, we've only seen one map in Rush. We've not played however many maps are going to be available in the game. I think I heard 10 or 12 or something like that. I'm not sure. Let me know down in the comments below. But now each stage has these kind of boundaries, essentially. Okay, so you start off on the first section of the map, and they've got boundaries, like what you'd expect. You know, the attackers can't go all the way back to the deployment of the defense, and, you know, keep wiping them out and not make it fun or anything like that, and vice versa for the defense going against the offense. In past games, though, if the attackers are able to push up on the next section, the defense could actually flank around to the back of the first section and then kind of pick them off if you want to. Now, you did get some, you know, people who would just get snipers. They'd go way into the back behind them and just kind of snipe at you and pick at you, and you've died from it. You'd be like, what the, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So they've kind of stopped that, but I think they went a little overboard, because now when you move to the next section, you've got the next set of boundaries, and you cannot go to the first section. And like, I was trying to flank, and you've probably seen it here at least once, assuming I've included it properly. I would try to just go around, and then it was like, oh, you're out of bounds, and I'm like, but wait a minute, my deployment's literally here, and this is their, you know, this is where they are, and I'm like, I barely have any room to flank around or anything like that. So I think they need to expand it just a little bit, okay? I like the idea of what they're going for. I get what they're trying to do. Just expand it out a little bit, I think, and you'll be good to go on that, okay? And like I said, it stops those idiots who are snipers and going way out into the distance and everything and taking care of all that, okay? Because flanking is a strategy, okay? And, you know, so they really need to do it. Now, at the beginning of the beta, there was a timer, and people hated that. You know, because with only 75 tickets, you need to be thoughtful. You can't just rush in and, you know, hope to win all the time. You're going to come against some good players, especially if they have vehicles and tanks and everything. So, thankfully, they removed that. But I still find it a little unbalanced. Just simply, I think the attackers got more tanks, especially when you get into the later parts of the stage, when the attackers keep pushing up, essentially. And it's really hard to take tanks out, and I might actually do a little bit of a tank video. I don't think tanks are overpowered. The only reason I think people think they're overpowered is simply because you don't have as many options to take them out, and when you give them all to one class, the assault class, you know, people are kind of like, you know, calling foul and everything, and it's just like, I think they just need to change some of the class balances, essentially. So let me know down in the comments right below right now, do you want me to talk about the tanks for those who actually enjoy this video talking about Battlefield 3? Some changes I would like to see in the Rush mode, because I'll admit, when I first played it, I got back and I was like, you know what, this actually kind of felt like Rush from Bad Company 2. You know, I spawned in late into the game, but we were in the city, I destructed buildings and everything, which was really cool. And I was like, man, I'm actually starting to get a little nostalgia feeling from Bad Company 2, which was really good. But there's still a lot more balance I think they need to do. And one of the things, what I was talking about before, they need to change the vehicles that each team gets. I think at first there's way too many vehicles at first, and it's just kind of more wide open. I think bring it a little bit more into the infantry. Have a couple vehicles though, because you still need to keep that Battlefield feel, I think. And then unless the classes change or things are added to certain classes to allow more classes to either, I don't want to say give an anti-vehicle weapon to all the classes, but I think you need to maybe at least give the dynamite equivalent to the support class or something like that. You know, I know the assault is supposed to be taking out the vehicles. I understand that. But when 3 of your classes literally cannot do anything, except for the snipers with their cable bullets or something like that, I think the support having the dynamite at least would be a little helpful. I think I'd mix it up a bit at least. So definitely do that, and just because it is really hard for the defense to take out the vehicles, and yeah, you just, especially with only 24 players. Like I said, I think 32 is the sweet spot, especially with PC, and now with the Xbox One and PS4 being able to do 64 players now instead of 24, I personally think that'd be a little better. And like I mentioned before, I think the area boundaries is a good idea, but just allow for a little bit more flanking, just a little bit, okay? That's just gonna be my personal opinion. Okay, I think the medics and the support classes need to be just upped a little bit, especially with the medics DMRs style type weapons to help take out the snipers essentially. And then increase the cover in the more desert area like places, because, and especially in the little bit after the first area, I think, yes, you have that kind of mountainish thing or in the middle there, and you've got the 2 MCOMs on the side essentially. But it is still very easy for the, because the attackers don't have to deal with anything, any flanking or anything, you can just sit there and be like, bam, bam, you know, fire some tank rounds into there, get us a couple of snipers to pin everyone down, and you just run in and arm it. It's just like, okay, well, that was not very fun. So, overall, I guess my closing thoughts on Rush is just going to be, you know, they're going in the right direction from Battlefield 4. They definitely are going back in the right direction, but they still need to deal with some class balance, some map balance, and I think just map design. I know they had talked about in, I believe back at like E3 and stuff, that they said, yes, we're going to be tailoring certain modes to certain maps, essentially, not just saying, okay, all maps, all game modes type of thing, but I don't know. They need to keep tweaking it. Like I said, though, I have not seen the rest of the maps. I have no idea what they are like. I could eat my words completely, which I personally hope I will, and just be like, oh, okay, well, that one little beta map wasn't, you know, a good example that they should have given us, and actually they fixed that map, and oh, hey, by the way, there's 11 more maps right here, and they're phenomenal. Yeah, you know, they're not 100% perfect, but you know what? It's really fun. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Rush. They're going in the right direction, like I said before. I hope they continue to improve, but I don't know. I hope DICE can do it, but I feel like maybe the equivalent of the CTE will come in and make it a little better. I'm not 100% sure because, let's face it, Battlefield 4 Rush was trash, and then the CTE, the guys from LA DICE, they came in and they fixed it definitely quite a bit, but the server settings, again, did not help with it. So let me know what you guys think. Have you played the beta at all? You know, what are your thoughts? Or do you honestly not care about Battlefield? And you're just like, oh, why did I even click on this? I saw a cool picture or something, and I just randomly clicked on this or something. So anyway, leave a like down below if you guys liked it. Leave a dislike if you didn't like it, or leave some comments down below, guys. Let's get a discussion going. Do you like the game mode or not? Do you prefer just to stay with Conquest? Let's be civil about it though. Let's just talk it out and everything. And yeah, let me know down below if you want me to do any kind of tips or anything like that, or you want me to do more opinions on Conquest. I kind of want to do a Conquest one, but like I said, let me know down below. So until next time, guys, have a good one and take it easy.